and the day of Lavos seems like it was in 2020 instead of 1999. Will we ever get anything Chrono Trigger again? What's good, interweb? This is your man Q, aka the Geek, back again. Like my opening monologue.
Mini monologue.
When the hell will we ever get another Chrono Trigger? Now, for those of y'all who don't know the historical significance of Chrono Trigger is and might be, and at the time rivaled the Squaresoft, which is now Square Enix, whether the 1994 Final Fantasy VI, or otherwise known as Final Fantasy III here in the States, was better than Chrono Trigger, or was Chrono Trigger better than Final Fantasy VI? I think I said the same thing, but you know what I mean. The whole premise of Chrono Trigger dealt with space, time, friendship, and everything else in between, even a little bit of love, which seems like something RPGs can't do anymore. Why? Chrono Trigger takes place in the year of 1000. Stars Chrono, ironically, just take the H out from Chrono to Chrono. Fast forward, and Chrono bumps into Marley, or like I like to call her, Meryl. Well, I've been calling her Meryl for like 25 years. I ain't gonna change now. Which he later discovers is the princess of Garia Kingdom. He introduces her to his best friend, Luca, the super genius, and also my favorite character in the game, who just so happens to be trying out her new transporter. Meryl decides to test out the transporter, and with a reaction to her pendant, is transported into the year 600, where Magus lives. Fast forward again, the three friends are trying to get home and end up in the year 1999, also known as the Day of Lavos, which basically is the end of the world. Of course, like any other red-blooded protagonists in a JRPG, especially in the 90s, they decided to forget everything else and to save the world. Chrono Trigger is one of the greatest games of all time, and I'm not just saying that because it's my favorite game, but many people feel that Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII ushered in the spiky hairdos and big swords. Well, but that's not necessarily true. In 1995, Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball Z artist, hooked up with Hanabaru Sakagachi, the producer, the godfather of the Final Fantasy, to make this epic JRPG. The game got critical acclaim in 1995 and is still, by many, considered to be, if not the GOAT, one of the greatest video games and RPGs of all time. 1999, Chrono Cross was released for the PlayStation 1, and even though it had the name Chrono on the title and a few characters here and there, items and situations, the story is not a direct sequel from Chrono Trigger, although you do see guest appearances from Chrono, Meryl, and from Luca. The true sequel, however, is the Radical Dreamers game, which is one of those audiobooks, a lot like the Final Fantasy 2, 3 type deal where you're reading it and it's just giving you some breakdowns of the story. That's when we first are introduced to the Surge, Lynx, and Kid. In 2003, right before the merger with Enix, Squaresoft producer In 2003, right before the merger of Enix and the departure of Hanabaru Sakagachi, there was talks in works on a third adaptation of Chrono series, which was going to be called Chrono Break. However, with Hanabaru leaving and with the merger and the fallout from the Squaresoft at the time, movie studios, Chrono Break was, well, broken, and the project ended up becoming Final Fantasy Dimensions 2, which had great art. It had great art and very colorful design, but yeah, it didn't really go any places. The disrespect for Chrono Trigger is real, and for it being my favorite game and being a fan of RPGs, especially during the golden era of games during the 90s to early 2000s, I don't really see why we don't see anything else other than the fact that, of course, yeah, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, I get that, but to be honest, if Chrono Trigger came out anything, we'd buy it. There was a release on Steam within the last year, but yeah, it was riddled with bugs, bad menu systems, and it just wasn't a good port. When the Super Nintendo Mini dropped, there was Final Fantasy VI, there was a whole bunch of other RPGs, but yet still no Chrono Trigger. I would love to see another Chrono anything to the series. Anything. I'd settle with it at least being on the Super Nintendo's, app. Switch, Square, Nintendo, anybody? Please? If they were to make a game, I would like to delve more into the connection between Kid and Luca and the truth about Scala. A lot of different scenarios and situations that they could run with. I could even see the game looking kind of like how Kakarot did for the PlayStation. Anything at this point is better than nothing, because one of the best franchises in your archives has just been laying dormant. And it's not like the fans haven't been clamoring for it. But what do you think, Interweb? Do you want to see another Chrono Trigger anything? I mean, for a 25-year anniversary, it was pretty silent, and that's pretty sad. Especially depending that this was one of Square Enix's greatest franchises. We've even seen a port of Secret of Mana. Of course, I like to see a Final Fantasy VIII remake, but even more than that, a Gears and again, a Chrono Trigger would be really great. A remake or just add to the story. But as always on the web, this has been your man Q, your friendly neighborhood geek. If you did like this video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new to my channel and you want to stay up to date with all things geek, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I also stream on Twitch. Links in the description below. And until next time, interweb, remember to eat, sleep, geek, repeat. Holla at y'all later. Peace. And if you're still feeling breezy, here's another video for you right here and right here. Air is windy.